Get out of here. You don't belong in this neighborhood. The man barked, pointing at a teen standing on the corner. His tone wasn't just rude. It was sharp, piercing, a judgment coated in years of unspoken prejudice. The young man, tall and poised, didn't flinch. He met the glare head-on. "Excuse me," he asked evenly. "I live here. This is where we meet Amari Johnson, 16 years old, ambitious, brilliant, and full of potential. His skin, a deep brown, had already made him a target of assumptions and microaggressions in a world that judged him before it even knew him. But Amari wasn't just another kid in the neighborhood. His mind, his resolve, and his quiet defiance were about to set a chain of events in motion that would make everyone involved reckon with their own arrogance. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, we want to thank you for your support, love, and kindness. We wouldn't have come this far without you. Subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us continue to bring you great content. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue to tell powerful stories. Your support means everything. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Amari had always been sharp, academically gifted, and polite. But in a local suburban high school, where wealth, privilege, and family name carried more weight than intellect, he was treated like an outsider. Teachers hesitated to call on him. Classmates whispered when he passed, and administrators assumed he was trouble the moment he walked into a room. One afternoon, during chemistry lab, Amari was quietly explaining a solution technique to a lab partner when a wealthy student, Blaine Whitmore, scoffed loudly. "Why are you even trying? This is advanced stuff. People like you don't usually get it." Blaine's words, meant as an insult, were a deliberate jab at Amari's race and background. A few friends chuckled. Others looked down, uncomfortable but silent. Amari froze for a moment. He could have walked away, ignored it, let the snide comment slide. But something inside him, a mix of pride, frustration, and quiet defiance, refused. He calmly corrected Blaine's assumption, explaining the method in detail. The teacher, noticing the exchange, gave Blaine a fleeting glare but said nothing. The classroom murmurs grew. The injustice was clear. Amari was competent, yet treated as inferior simply because of who he was. Outside the classroom, it was no different. On the soccer field, during club meetings, and even at the local coffee shop where students congregated after school, whispers followed him. A parent on the sidelines once remarked loudly about needing someone more like us to coach the team directly in front of him. Each day stacked small injustices on top of each other, being overlooked, underestimated, and disrespected until the weight of it was almost unbearable. The situation escalated when Amari applied for the school's annual Leadership Council, a prestigious student program that came with scholarship opportunities, mentorships, and recognition for college applications. Blaine, again, laughed openly at him in the hallway. "Leadership? Don't make me laugh. They'll never pick someone like you." Amari, undeterred, submitted his application. He spent nights meticulously preparing his essays, refining his ideas, and demonstrating through words, grades, and actions that he was more than qualified. But when the selection results were posted, Amari found his name missing. Blaine smirked, flipping the page to his own acceptance announcement. "See? I told you," he whispered to a friend. It wasn't just rejection. It was deliberate, systemic favoritism. The council advisors, unknowingly or not, had allowed bias to dictate decisions. For Amari, it was another public mark of injustice. Merit denied, opportunity withheld, judgment cast before consideration. But Amari didn't fold. He began documenting each interaction, every subtle slight, and the patterns that emerged. He wrote detailed notes. The teacher who consistently overlooked his answers, the coaches who dismissed his contributions, the administrators who assumed trouble before knowledge. Every slight, every act of dismissal was meticulously cataloged. At school assemblies, he noticed how the awards went to students whose family names and appearances fit the preferred image. Amari's achievements were quietly acknowledged but never celebrated. At the annual science fair, where he had invented a device to purify water using minimal electricity, his project was placed on a side table while the prestige projects were highlighted center stage. Parents clapped politely, but the excitement was reserved for others. Outside school, life wasn't kinder. The local community, steeped in privilege and wealth, often treated him as a visitor rather than a member. A high-end grocery store manager once asked Amari to leave, assuming he didn't belong there. When he politely explained he was a local resident, the manager shrugged and said, "Well, maybe next time wear something less conspicuous." Each incident built upon the last, like stacked dominoes of prejudice. Every day, Amari navigated a minefield of subtle and overt racism, social class bias, and condescending assumptions. Yet with each setback, he grew more patient, more observant, and more prepared. He realized that karma, in some form, might not need his interference, but evidence, persistence, and quiet action could set the stage for it. Months passed, and Amari continued his quiet diligence. He didn't boast, he didn't rage, he prepared. Then came the annual regional scholarship competition, a highly respected program awarding substantial college grants to the most promising student in the district. Amari had submitted his portfolio months ago, highlighting achievements no one in the school seemed to notice. Science fair wins, community service hours, debate championships, and leadership in volunteer programs. The announcement day arrived. The auditorium buzzed with excitement. Blaine strutted onto the stage, smug, expecting to be celebrated as usual. The principal stepped forward and began reading the list of winners. One by one, students received their grants, all predictable names, until the principal cleared her throat and said, "And our top regional scholarship recipient, Amari Johnson." The room froze. Blaine's confident smirk faltered. Whispers spread through the crowd. Parents exchanged puzzled glances. Teachers who had overlooked Amari shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Amari walked calmly to the stage, holding his portfolio close. He smiled politely, bowed slightly, and accepted the award. The judges praised his merit, his initiative, and the character he demonstrated while facing adversity. They highlighted not only his achievements, but also the resilience and integrity he showed despite systemic bias and social prejudice. Blaine's expression transformed from shock to embarrassment, then fury. He tried to speak, to dismiss Amari's victory with sarcasm, but the room's energy had shifted. Fellow students now saw Blaine's arrogance for what it was, a fragile facade covering insecurity and privilege. Teachers who had ignored Amari's potential stood in awkward silence. Parents whispered among themselves, realizing how often their assumptions about race and status had influenced their judgments. In subsequent weeks, Blaine faced subtle consequences. Teachers corrected him publicly when he tried to undermine peers. Student council members stopped including him in private planning sessions. His comments and jokes, previously tolerated, were met with quiet but firm opposition. The social hierarchy he relied on began to crumble, not because of anger, but because merit, patience, and kindness had revealed the truth. Meanwhile, Amari's reputation grew. Students who had once ignored him now sought his advice. Parents complimented his work ethic and integrity. Even faculty members who had doubted him approached him, acknowledging his resilience and insight. It was not vengeance, it was justice, delivered through the undeniable power of persistence and character. Amari's story became a quiet lesson in the school and beyond. That adversity does not define a person's worth, but how they respond to it does. He emphasized that true strength lies in remaining composed under pressure, continuing to work hard when others doubt you, and treating everyone with respect, even those who judge unfairly. At the award ceremony, he spoke briefly. Every person you meet carries a story you don't know. Don't assume you understand their path. Treat everyone with fairness and kindness, because integrity and perseverance will always outshine prejudice and arrogance. Today, it's not about winning. It's about showing that merit, courage, and empathy matter more than appearance, privilege, or the loudest voice in the room. Weeks later, the ripple effects continued. Blaine, once a symbol of entitlement, had learned humility. Other students became more conscious of their behavior toward peers from different backgrounds. Teachers reflected on their own biases. And Amari? He quietly continued his studies, mentoring younger students, volunteering in the community, and preparing for the next chapter of his life. The story left one indelible truth. When patience, kindness, and integrity collide with ignorance and arrogance, the outcome is inevitable. Karma, in its own subtle but powerful way, had done its work. And the lesson lingered far beyond the walls of the school, a reminder that life favors those who combine skill with character and courage. No matter the judgment, the prejudice, or the systemic barriers you face, your response defines your legacy. Stand tall, remain kind, work hard, and pursue excellence relentlessly. Life will reward those who persevere with integrity, not immediately, but inevitably,